All right, so as you know, Antarctica is a pretty inhospitable place. People are not meant to be here. There's so many crazy reasons why you shouldn't be here, but hey, we're here. I'm going to go over 8 reasons why living in Antarctica doesn't make sense. So the first one is there are no freshwater sources. All the water we drink in Antarctica is a result of a desalination plant. The only fresh water here really is frozen, so the only way to have a sustainable source of water is desalinating the seawater, which is obviously fueled by something, right? And you want to know what that is? It's fueled by diesel. So we're using diesel to desalinate water for us to drink water on a daily basis. Pretty crazy. Number 2, the use of dynamite to create usable rock. So what that means is, every week, a few times a week, you would get blasting notifications and emails, radio calls on different places that they were doing some blasting in. I originally assumed it was to carve out a place for a new development, a building of some sort that they were putting up. But I later found out they're just blasting volcanic rock into smaller rock to use for foundations, for roads, for building materials, because it is too expensive to have anything shipped in. So normally, like 3 times a week, they blow up rocks to make smaller rocks. Pretty funny, strange. The next one, number 3, is fuels. I kind of mentioned it in number 1, but the station runs on gasoline and diesel. When the cargo ship comes in to restock each year in January, there are millions of gallons of fuel on board to keep America's Antarctic program powered. And aside from that, the South Pole Station also uses fuel, so every summer there's a heavy equipment traverse from McMurdo Station to the South Pole Station, dragging fuel for a month-long expedition to keep the South Pole running. The traverse takes 2 to 3 months every summer. The crazy thing is, they used to actually have a nuclear power facility here. But nuclear power facilities are obviously banned according to the Antarctic Treaty. That's that. Pretty crazy. The reason they have to do this traverse is because they used to fly in fuel, but it was so highly inefficient that they were using a lot of the fuel they just brought in flight back. So it just didn't make sense. Number 4. Alcohol is rationed. So I don't think any American has ever been rationed for anything in their life. So the concept is hard to grasp. And this just came into effect this year. So it's new. But this is how it works. Every employee receives 3 rations a week. The ration is for a certain amount of alcohol you are allowed to buy and consume over that week. 1 ration is equal to 6 beers or 1 bottle of wine. And generally any bottle of whiskey, vodka, anything else will take your rations for the week plus 1 from the next week, so 4 rations. Of course, everyone who has been here for years is in uproar, very frustrated and angered by this. I mean, it is weird. We have 2 bars, but they don't serve alcohol. So it's just, BYOB, bring your own beer. Overall, totally survivable. But, alcoholics beware. 5 is air travel. So 1 out of 4 flights is canceled due to weather or maintenance here in Antarctica. Air travel is the only way on or off the continent, as well as going between different stations or field camps over Antarctica. You can go weeks without a flight if the weather is bad in the summer. And in the winter, you go like 4 months without a flight. So it's not like you have a lot of options to get anywhere. The Air National Guard is in charge of many of the flights, handling large groups of people and cargo. The contract only requires them to complete 25% of the missions assigned. So last year, they actually completed 38% of the missions, and it was considered a great success. So air traffic is the only thing you have, and it's almost unreliable anyway. So not the best situation. Next is sea ice travel, basically for everything. So having a flat surface to travel over is very important, obviously. So all the airstrips are out on the sea ice, as well as the long duration air balloon facility ran by NASA. That's out on the sea ice too. So these places are accessed daily with nearly 100 workers on the ice every day. There is nothing stable to make them reliable. So when the weather gets warm, there's like slush and standing water over sections of the ice, and vehicles get stuck constantly. There's times where fleet ops will stay outside of the transition, which is the area between Ross Island and the sea ice where it kind of meets. They'll just hang out there and wait to pull people out. There's even been times where there's helicopters that they'll have to take people from McMurdo Station to the airfields to fly because the condition of that snow road they created is so bad. The next one is quite an obvious one. Weather, kind of mentioned it anyway, but this is probably a given, but it has to be mentioned. The weather here is portrayed on a scale. So Con 3, good and clear to go anywhere. Con 2, which is low visibility but still possible to travel, but extra protocol is in place for like radio calls and stuff like that. And then there's Con 1. Rarely happens. It only has happened once while I've been here in the summer this year, but still occasionally. And that you can't see almost anything. You're supposed to like shelter in place wherever you're at. You just have to stay in your building, and if you're out in a vehicle, you just kind of have to hold there until you can see again, because the visibility is really bad, and most likely it's a very dangerous wind chill and temperature outside. With sunlight all day, normally you can get anywhere in the summer aside from those random times where it happens, but in the winter it's dark all the time, and the transportation outside of town is pretty much at a standstill. You can't go anywhere. Basically all the airfields are closed anyway. There's no reason to really leave town, and you barely can see, and the weather's awful anyway, so you can't. So weather, not so great. And then lastly, animals. So because there are no native people to Antarctica and there are no predators on land, the wildlife is pretty carefree, you know? Penguins and seals approach people, and because they have never been harmed by anything on land their entire existence, so they're pretty not worried about anything. There's a lot of rules we have in place that we're supposed to stay away from them, but there's times where they can stop operations in town because they're just hanging out on a road or something, and we can't do anything to move them because we're not supposed to. So when viewing these animals, we're supposed to at least stay 15 feet away, but because they are not afraid, penguins and seals commonly approach you because they are curious and they know they can't be harmed. So very funny thing for sure, not that big of a deal, but it does stop operations for decent amounts of time every once in a while because they won't get out of the way. So that is this video. Thanks for watching, and tune in for more videos like this in the future. I got a lot more coming. So see you in the next one.